Welcome to Paranormal Pages. Let's get straight into the true scary stories. Story 1. Haunted Surfaces. The day I moved into the old Victorian house, I knew something was off. The air felt thick, charged with a history that whispered through the creaking floorboards and the groaning walls. It was the kind of house that loomed over you, casting long, eerie shadows even in broad daylight. I brushed off the unease, attributing it to my overactive imagination and the exhaustion of the move. Little did I know, my life was about to take a turn for the horrifying. I was unpacking boxes in the living room when I first noticed it. The wallpaper, a once charming floral pattern, seemed to shift under my gaze. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light or my tired eyes playing games. But as I stood there, squinting at the wall, the flowers appeared to sway gently, as if caught in a breeze. I shook my head, chuckling nervously at my own ridiculous thoughts, and went back to work. That night, I was awoken by a sound I couldn't quite place. It was a soft, rustling noise, like leaves brushing against a window pane. I sat up in bed, straining to hear more clearly. The room was pitch dark, save for the faint glow of the moon filtering through the curtains. I reached for my phone to check the time, 3:15 a.m. The sound persisted, growing louder and more insistent. My heart pounded in my chest as I got out of bed and followed the noise down the hallway. When I reached the living room, I froze. The wallpaper had changed. It no longer displayed the quaint floral design. Instead, it depicted a chilling scene, a dense forest at night, with shadows that seemed to stretch and shift ominously. I blinked rapidly, trying to clear my vision. This couldn't be real. Wallpaper doesn't just change on its own. I approached the wall cautiously, my fingers trembling as I reached out to touch it. The surface felt the same, but the image remained. The next morning, I called my best friend, Emily. "You won't believe this," I said, my voice shaky with a mix of fear and disbelief. "The wallpaper in my living room, it changed last night. It looked like a forest. Are you sure you're not just tired and seeing things?" Emily's tone was skeptical, but I could hear the concern underlying her words. "I know what I saw," I insisted. "It was real." Okay, she relented. "I'll come over after work and take a look. Maybe there's a logical explanation." That day dragged on interminably. Every creak and groan of the house set my nerves on edge. By the time Emily arrived, I was a bundle of anxiety. We stood in the living room, staring at the wallpaper together. It had reverted to the floral pattern, pristine and unassuming. Emily gave me a sympathetic look. "Maybe it was a dream," she suggested gently. "I know what I saw," I repeated, frustration creeping into my voice. "It wasn't a dream." As if to mock me, the wallpaper began to change again right before our eyes. The flowers morphed into dark, twisted trees, their branches clawing at an unseen sky. Emily gasped, clutching my arm. "Okay, that is not normal." We spent hours researching the history of the house, trying to uncover any clues. The previous owners had moved out suddenly, leaving no forwarding address. There were no records of anything unusual, no ghost stories or tragic events. Yet, the evidence was right in front of us, etched into the very walls of my home. As night fell, the forest scene grew darker, more oppressive. Shadows moved within the trees, taking on vaguely human forms. I could feel their eyes on me, cold and calculating. Sleep was impossible, so I sat in the living room, watching the wallpaper with a mix of dread and morbid curiosity. When the clock struck midnight, I saw it, a face, pale and spectral, staring back at me from the depths of the forest. It mouthed silent words, its eyes filled with sorrow and fear. I bolted upright, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The face vanished, but the terror lingered. I knew, without a doubt, that something was horribly wrong with this house. And whatever it was just getting started. Hey, subscribe for more scary stories. Sleep eluded me for the rest of the night. I spent the early hours pacing the floor, the wallpaper's eerie transformation replaying in my mind. Morning light finally filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows across the living room. The forest scene had vanished, replaced once more by the innocent floral pattern. I felt a hollow relief, knowing deep down that this was only the beginning. I called Emily, my voice trembling as I recounted the events of the night. "There was a face," I said, my words stumbling over each other. "It was watching me from the wallpaper." "I believe you," she said, her tone serious. "We need to find out what's causing this. Maybe we should bring in an expert." The idea of involving a paranormal investigator seemed absurd, but what other choice did I have? Emily made the arrangements, and by late afternoon, a man named Dr. Caldwell arrived. He was an older gentleman, with sharp eyes that missed nothing and an air of calm authority. "So, you say the wallpaper changes?" he asked, setting up equipment in the living room. "Yes," I replied, showing him the photos I'd taken with my phone. "It turns into a forest at night, and I saw a face in it last night." Dr. Caldwell examined the images, nodding thoughtfully. "I've seen similar cases," he said. "It could be a residual haunting, an echo of a past event. But the changing wallpaper, that's unusual." We spent hours talking, the afternoon slipping into evening as he asked me about the house, its history, and any other strange occurrences. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, I was exhausted but hopeful that we might find some answers. As night fell, the familiar dread crept back. Dr. Caldwell had set up cameras and motion sensors around the living room, determined to capture whatever was happening. Emily stayed by my side, her presence a small comfort in the growing darkness. Midnight approached, and the room seemed to grow colder. The floral wallpaper began its slow, horrifying transformation into the forest scene. I watched, my heart pounding, as the trees emerged, their branches twisting and writhing like living things. The shadows within the forest grew darker, more defined. And then, the face appeared again. "There it is," I whispered, pointing. Dr. Caldwell adjusted his camera, capturing the image. The face was clearer this time, a woman, her eyes wide with fear. Her lips moved, forming silent words that I couldn't understand. "Do you see that?" Emily whispered, her grip tightening on my arm. "I do," Dr. Caldwell said. "This is extraordinary." The woman in the wallpaper seemed to notice us. Her eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a chill run down my spine. She mouthed the word help over and over again, her expression desperate. "She wants something," I said, my voice barely audible. "She wants us to help her." Dr. Caldwell nodded. "We need to find out who she is. There must be a reason she's trapped here." We spent the next few days delving into the house's history, combing through old records and archives. We discovered that the house had once belonged to a family named Whitmore. The last resident, a young woman named Clara Whitmore, had disappeared under mysterious circumstances in the late 1800s. Her body was never found, and her disappearance remained unsolved. As we dug deeper, the wallpaper continued its nightly transformations. Each time, Clara's face appeared, growing more distinct and more desperate. It was clear she was trying to communicate with us, but we couldn't decipher her message. The frustration and fear gnawed at me, making sleep impossible. One night, as I sat alone in the living room, the wallpaper shifted once more. Clara's face appeared, and this time, I could hear her voice, faint and echoing, as if from a great distance. "Help me," she whispered. "Find me." I leaned forward, my heart racing. "Clara, how can we help you?" I asked aloud, hoping she could hear me. "Find me," she repeated, her voice growing weaker. "I'm here, under." Her words faded, and the forest scene melted away, replaced by the floral pattern once more. I sat back, shaking with a mixture of fear and determination. We were getting closer, but I had a feeling that the answers we sought would not come easily. Clara's restless spirit was bound to this house, and it was up to us to uncover the truth and set her free. Days blurred together as Emily, Dr. Caldwell, and I searched for clues about Clara Whitmore. The house seemed to mock us with its eerie silence, as if it held secrets too dark to reveal. Each night, the wallpaper transformed, and Clara's face appeared, her silent pleas growing more desperate. The need to uncover the truth gnawed at me, driving me to the brink of obsession. We found an old newspaper article from 1897, detailing Clara's disappearance. It spoke of a young woman with a bright future, engaged to a wealthy businessman. She vanished without a trace one stormy night, and despite extensive searches, no evidence was found. The case went cold, and Clara was eventually presumed dead. "There's something we're missing," Emily said, her voice tinged with frustration. We were sitting in the library, surrounded by yellowed newspapers and dusty old books. "She keeps saying find me. But where?" "I think she might be buried here," Dr. Caldwell suggested. "The fact that she appears in the wallpaper indicates a strong connection to this house. We need to look for any hidden places." We combed through the house, examining every nook and cranny. The basement was damp and musty, filled with old furniture and cobwebs. The attic was cluttered with forgotten possessions and broken toys. But nothing seemed out of the ordinary. One evening, as I sat in the living room, the wallpaper began its nightly transformation. This time, Clara's face was clearer than ever. Her eyes were wide with terror, and her lips moved frantically. I strained to hear her words, my heart pounding. "Under the floor," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I bolted upright. "Under the floor," I repeated, grabbing a flashlight and calling for Emily and Dr. Caldwell. We rushed to the living room, pulling back the rug and examining the floorboards. "There!" Emily exclaimed, pointing to a loose board near the fireplace. We pried it up, revealing a small, hidden compartment. Inside, we found a bundle of old letters and a locket, tarnished with age. Dr. Caldwell carefully opened the letters, his eyes scanning the faded handwriting. "These are love letters," he said. "From Clara to her fiancé. They speak of secret meetings and plans to elope." My heart sank as I realized the implications. "She was planning to run away," I said. But something happened. We continued to dig through the hidden compartment, and beneath the letters, we found a small, leather-bound diary. The pages were brittle and yellowed, but the words were still legible. Clara's voice seemed to leap off the page as we read her final entries. July 14th, 1897. "I fear for my life. Father has discovered our plans, and he is furious. He says he will never allow me to marry beneath my station. I am to be sent away, but I will not go without a fight. If anything happens to me, know that I love you, and I will find a way back to you." We sat in stunned silence, the weight of Clara's words sinking in. "Her father," I whispered. "He must have done something terrible." Dr. Caldwell nodded grimly. "We need to find out more about Clara's father. There must be records of him somewhere." As we delved deeper into the past, we uncovered a darker side to the Whitmore family. Clara's father, Thomas Whitmore, was a ruthless businessman with a reputation for cruelty. He had a temper, and there were rumors of violent outbursts. It became clear that he would stop at nothing to maintain control over his daughter. One night, as the wallpaper transformed once more, Clara's face appeared, more vivid and sorrowful than ever. "The cellar," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Find me in the cellar." We hurried to the basement, our hearts pounding with anticipation and dread. The cellar was dark and cold, the air thick with the scent of damp earth. We searched the walls and floor, looking for any signs of disturbance. Finally, in the far corner, we found a loose stone. With great effort, we pried it free, revealing a small, hollow space. Inside, wrapped in a tattered cloth, were the remains of a young woman. Clara's locket lay atop the bundle, glinting faintly in the dim light. Tears streamed down my face as I realized we had found her. "Clara," I whispered, my voice breaking. "We found you." Dr. Caldwell carefully retrieved the remains, his expression solemn. "We need to give her a proper burial," he said. "And perhaps, finally, she will be at peace." As we prepared to lay Clara to rest, a sense of relief washed over me. But deep down, I knew that the house still held more secrets. And the darkness that had claimed Clara was not yet done with us. The night we buried Clara was calm, almost peaceful. We chose a quiet spot in the garden, under an old oak tree where the morning sun would touch her grave. Emily, Dr. Caldwell, and I stood in silence, each of us lost in our thoughts as we laid her remains to rest. The air felt lighter, the oppressive atmosphere of the house momentarily lifted. We hoped this would bring her spirit peace, but a part of me remained uneasy. That evening, I sat alone in the living room, watching the floral wallpaper. It held steady, its patterns unmoving, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this was truly the end of our ordeal. Emily and Dr. Caldwell left, promising to check on me in the morning. Sleep came quickly, but it was not the restful sleep I had hoped for. My dreams were filled with images of Clara, her face twisted in fear, her silent pleas echoing in my mind. I woke with a start, the room dark and silent. The clock read 3:15 a.m., the same time I had first heard the rustling sound that led me to this nightmare. I sat up, heart pounding, and reached for the flashlight on my nightstand. The house was unnervingly quiet, the kind of silence that presses down on you, making every creak and groan seem magnified. I knew something was wrong. As I approached the living room, my steps faltered. The wallpaper had changed again, but this time, it was not the forest scene. Instead, it was an image of the room itself, but distorted, like a funhouse mirror. The furniture was twisted and warped, the shadows long and menacing. And there, in the center, stood Clara. She was not the sorrowful figure we had come to know, but something more sinister, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Help me," her voice echoed, but it was different now, deeper, darker. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized that Clara's spirit was not the only one haunting this house. Something else was here, something far more malevolent. "Clara?" I whispered, stepping closer. "Is that you?" Her image flickered, the light in her eyes intensifying. "Leave this place," she said, her voice layered with another, deeper tone. "You do not belong here." I backed away, fear clawing at my chest. "What do you mean?" "We laid you to rest. We thought you were at peace." "Peace," she laughed, a sound that sent shivers through me. "There is no peace here. He won't let me go." "Who?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "Who won't let you go?" She stepped forward, her face inches from the wallpaper. "My father," she whispered. "His spirit is bound to this house, and he won't rest until he has taken another." The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Thomas Whitmore's malevolent spirit had trapped Clara, and now, it was coming for me. Panic surged through me as the wallpaper began to ripple and shift, the image of Clara distorting into a monstrous form. I ran to the front door, but it wouldn't budge. The air grew colder, and I could feel his presence, a dark, oppressive force that wrapped around me like a vice. "Leave me alone!" I screamed, banging on the door, desperate to escape. The house groaned in response, the walls closing in as if alive. I turned and ran towards the basement, hoping to find a way out through the cellar. The basement was pitch dark, the smell of damp earth stronger than ever. I fumbled for the light switch, my hands shaking. The bulb flickered to life, casting eerie shadows across the room. The cellar wall where we had found Clara's remains stood ominously, and I could hear a faint whispering, a chorus of voices blending into a haunting melody. "Help me," Clara's voice rose above the others, desperate and pleading. "Free me from him." I grabbed a shovel, driven by a mix of terror and determination. I began to dig frantically, the earth giving way beneath my frantic efforts. The whispering grew louder, filling my head with a cacophony of voices. Suddenly, I hit something solid. I cleared away the dirt, revealing an old wooden box, its surface covered in strange symbols. I pried it open, my breath catching as I saw what lay inside, a set of bones, wrapped in tattered fabric, and a small, rusted key. The moment I touched the key, the whispering stopped, replaced by a deafening silence. I turned to leave, but the cellar door slammed shut. Thomas Whitmore's ghostly figure stood there, his eyes burning with rage. "You cannot leave," he hissed. "You belong to me now." Desperation gave me strength. I held the key up, its cold metal biting into my palm. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I don't belong to you. Clara doesn't belong to you. It's time for you to go." With all my might, I drove the key into the earth, a surge of energy radiating from the point of contact. Thomas screamed, his form dissolving into shadows. The house shuddered, the oppressive atmosphere lifting as his spirit was finally banished. I stumbled out of the basement, the first rays of dawn breaking through the windows. The house felt different, lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. I knew it was over. Clara was free, and so was I. But as I sat on the porch, catching my breath, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed within me. The house might be at peace, but the darkness I had encountered left a mark, a shadow that would follow me wherever I went. Subscribe for more true scary stories. Story 2. The Clown. I found the tape while sorting through the dusty attic of my childhood home. The sun filtered through the small, grimy window, casting a dim light over the cluttered space. I had moved back in temporarily to help my mom downsize after Dad's passing. It was a melancholic task, made even more so by the memories that each box unearthed. Then, in an old, cracked cardboard box labeled Jason's Birthday 1995, I discovered the VHS tape. Curious and feeling a wave of nostalgia, I took the tape downstairs to the living room where an old VCR still sat. The thought of watching my 6th birthday party filled me with a strange excitement. I vaguely remembered the day, the cake, the friends, the laughter. But what stuck with me most was the eerie sense of déjà vu that washed over me as I inserted the tape into the player. The screen flickered, and the grainy footage came to life. There I was, a small boy with a toothy grin, surrounded by friends and family. The camera panned to the yard, decorated with balloons and streamers. My younger self blew out the candles on a cake while everyone cheered. Everything seemed normal at first, just a typical birthday party. But then, in the background, I noticed something odd, a clown, blurry and indistinct, always just out of focus. Did we hire a clown for my party? I asked Mom as she walked in carrying a box of photo albums. She frowned, peering at the screen. I don't remember hiring one. Maybe it was one of the neighbors playing dress up. But as I continued to watch, unease crept in. The clown appeared in several scenes, always at the edge of the frame, never clear. It seemed to be watching, its face painted in exaggerated features, but its eyes obscured. Every time I tried to focus on it, my vision blurred. The camera never lingered on the clown, almost as if it was trying to avoid it. "I don't like this," Mom muttered, her face pale. "Turn it off, Jason." But I couldn't. Something about the clown's presence was magnetic, pulling me in. The tape ended with a sudden cut to black, but not before a final shot of the clown waving slowly, its gloved hand moving in a mechanical manner. A chill ran down my spine. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The clown's blurry form haunted my dreams. I woke up drenched in sweat, the image of its waving hand burned into my mind. Determined to find answers, I decided to dig deeper into the old box. Among the scattered photos and party favors, I found an envelope marked "Do Not Open." Inside was a series of photographs from that same birthday party. In each one, the clown was present, its face always turned away or obscured by shadows. There was no mistaking it now, this wasn't just a neighbor playing a prank. The way it lingered, the way it seemed to focus on me, it felt deliberate. "Who are you?" I whispered to the photographs, my hands trembling. The attic was eerily quiet as I stared at the clown, the sense of dread growing with each passing moment. I knew I had to find out the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be. Determined to uncover the truth about the mysterious clown, I decided to search for more information. The next morning, I went through the old family photo albums, looking for any other signs of the clown in my childhood. My fingers trembled as I flipped through the pages, my eyes scanning every picture. But there was nothing unusual. It seemed the clown only appeared on that one particular day. Later, I asked Mom again if she remembered anything odd about my 6th birthday. She shook her head, her brow furrowing. I don't remember much from that day, Jason. It was a long time ago. Maybe your father knew something, but he's gone now. My father's death had left many questions unanswered. He was always the one with the camera, documenting every family event meticulously. I decided to go through his old journals, hoping to find any mention of the clown. In the basement, I found a locked chest containing his personal items. With some effort, I managed to pry it open. Inside, I found a collection of journals, neatly arranged by year. I grabbed the one labeled 1995 and began reading. The entries were mostly mundane, detailing day-to-day activities and thoughts. But then, in an entry dated a few days after my birthday, I found a chilling note. "There's something strange about that clown," my father had written. "It wasn't hired by us, and none of the neighbors know anything about it. Jason keeps mentioning it in his sleep, says the clown talks to him. I thought it was just a nightmare, but now I'm not so sure." The journal continued with more entries about the clown. My father had tried to investigate, asking around the neighborhood, but no one remembered seeing a clown at the party. It was as if it had appeared out of nowhere. The last entry about the clown was particularly disturbing. "Jason woke up screaming last night. Said the clown was in his room. I checked, but found nothing. Still, I can't shake the feeling we're being watched." A cold shiver ran down my spine. My father's fears mirrored my own. The clown wasn't just a figment of my imagination. But what did it want? Why was it haunting my childhood memories? That night, I had another nightmare. The clown was there, its face clearer than before. It spoke in a low, raspy voice, "Remember me, Jason?" I woke up with a start, my heart pounding. This was no ordinary haunting. The clown was real, and it wanted something from me. Desperate for answers, I reached out to my old childhood friends who had attended the party. Most of them didn't remember much, but one, Sarah, recalled something odd. "I remember being scared of the clown," she said over the phone. "It wasn't like other clowns. It felt wrong. I tried to stay away from it, but it was always watching." Her words confirmed my worst fears. This clown was not just a creepy memory, it had a presence, a malevolent aura that affected those around it. I needed to know more, to remember what had been buried in my mind for so long. I decided to visit the local library and look through old newspapers and town records, hoping to find any mention of unusual events or strange occurrences around that time. At the library, I sifted through archives, my anxiety growing with each passing hour. Finally, I found something that made my blood run cold. An old newspaper article dated a few days after my birthday party reported a series of disappearances in our neighborhood. Children had gone missing, and the only common link was a sighting of a clown near each child's home. I stared at the article, my heart racing. This wasn't just about a creepy figure from my past. It was something far more sinister. The clown had been involved in those disappearances, and it had been at my party. But why was I still here? What did it want from me now? The library was nearly empty as I sat there, staring at the newspaper article. The disappearances, the sightings of the clown, they all pointed to something dark and malicious. I had to dig deeper. I photocopied the article and took it home, my mind racing with questions. Why hadn't my parents told me about the missing children? Why hadn't they remembered the clown? That evening, I spread the article and photos across the dining room table, trying to piece together the puzzle. The phone rang, startling me out of my thoughts. It was Sarah. "Jason, I've been thinking about that clown. I think you should talk to my grandmother. She's always been superstitious and might know something." I agreed, and the next morning, I found myself on Sarah's doorstep. Her grandmother, Mrs. Thompson, was a frail but sharp-minded woman. She greeted me warmly, but her eyes darkened when I mentioned the clown. "Ah, the cursed one," she said, her voice trembling. "I was hoping it was just a legend." "What legend?" I asked, leaning forward, my curiosity piqued. Mrs. Thompson sighed and settled into her chair. "Many years ago, there was a clown who performed at children's parties. He was known for his tricks and illusions. But there was a darkness to him. Children began to disappear after his shows. It was said he made a deal with a malevolent spirit, trading the children's souls for his own immortality. A chill ran down my spine. Are you saying that clown was at my party? She nodded slowly. It sounds like it. The spirit must have been awakened. Did you or your family disturb anything recently? I thought back to the attic and the old box I had found. We've been going through old stuff. I found the tape of my birthday party, and that's when all this started happening. That explains it, Mrs. Thompson said. The spirit latched onto you through the tape. It's trying to reclaim what it lost. You must find a way to break the connection. How? I asked, feeling a surge of desperation. She handed me an old book, its cover worn and pages yellowed. This contains the ritual. It won't be easy, and it will be dangerous. But it's your only hope. Armed with the book, I returned home, determined to end the nightmare. I spent the next few days preparing, gathering the necessary items for the ritual. My mom watched me with concern but didn't question my actions. She could sense the urgency and fear in my eyes. The night of the ritual, I set everything up in the living room, the eerie glow of candles casting long shadows on the walls. I placed the tape in the center and began chanting the incantations from the book. The air grew cold, and the shadows seemed to come alive, swirling around me. Suddenly, the TV turned on, the screen flickering to life. The clown appeared, clearer than ever, its eyes glowing with malevolence. You can't stop me, Jason, it hissed, its voice echoing through the room. I continued chanting, my voice trembling but determined. The room shook, and the clown's image wavered. It screamed in rage, its form distorting. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, the clown lunged at me, its face twisted with fury. But before it could reach me, the tape burst into flames, the clown's scream turning into a wail of despair. The shadows receded, and the coldness lifted. The room fell silent, save for the crackling of the burning tape. I collapsed to the floor, exhausted but relieved. It was over. The clown was gone. Or so I thought. As I lay there, catching my breath, I heard a faint, familiar voice. Remember me, Jason? It was the clown, its voice echoing from somewhere deep within the house. The voice echoed through the house, sending a chill down my spine. I jumped to my feet, scanning the room for any sign of the clown. The burned tape lay in ashes, but the sinister presence remained. My heart pounded as I realized the ritual hadn't been enough. The clown's spirit still lingered, and it was angrier than ever. Desperation and fear clawed at me, but I couldn't give up now. I grabbed the book Mrs. Thompson had given me, flipping through the pages for any additional clues. There, near the end, was a passage about confronting malevolent spirits directly. It was risky, but I had no other choice. I gathered my courage and followed the instructions, creating a protective circle with salt and lighting the candles once more. As I stood in the center of the circle, I called out to the clown, my voice steady despite the terror gnawing at my insides. Show yourself. Face me and end this. The temperature in the room plummeted, and the shadows seemed to writhe in response. Slowly, the clown materialized before me, its grotesque smile more menacing than ever. You think you can defeat me? It sneered, its eyes glowing with malice. I have to, I replied, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Why are you haunting me? What do you want? The clown's smile widened, revealing sharp, yellowed teeth. Your soul, Jason. Just like the others. You escaped me once, but you won't again. Anger surged through me. I'm not afraid of you. I shouted, the words echoing in the dark room. You have no power over me. The clown laughed, a chilling sound that reverberated through the walls. Brave words for a scared little boy. Let's see if you can back them up. With that, the clown lunged at me, but it couldn't penetrate the protective circle. It snarled in frustration, clawing at the invisible barrier. I began the final incantation, my voice growing stronger with each word. The air around us crackled with energy, and the room shook violently. The clown's form began to waver, its sinister grin faltering. "No! You can't do this," it screamed, but I didn't stop. I poured all my fear, anger, and determination into the chant, determined to end this nightmare once and for all. The clown's image flickered and distorted, its screams turning into a high-pitched wail. The shadows in the room swirled around it, converging on its form and pulling it apart piece by piece. With one final, ear-piercing shriek, the clown disintegrated, leaving only a thin, wispy shadow that quickly faded into nothingness. The room fell silent. The oppressive cold lifted, and the candles flickered out. I collapsed to the floor, exhausted but relieved. The nightmare was finally over. The clown was gone. Or so I thought. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to normal. The house felt lighter, the air warmer. Mom and I finished sorting through the attic, and I found a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. But every now and then, in the quiet of the night, I could swear I heard a faint, familiar voice whispering my name. One evening, as I was settling into bed, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number. I hesitated, a sense of dread washing over me, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened the message, and my blood ran cold. "Did you miss me, Jason?" Attached was a photo of my 6th birthday party, the clown standing just out of focus, its sinister grin aimed directly at the camera. I dropped the phone, my heart pounding. The clown was back. And this time, it wouldn't stop until it had what it wanted. The end. Subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.